You're listening to Packers Talk Network. PackersTalk.com.
You're listening to No Huddle Radio on the Packers Talk Radio Network, your home for in-depth and thoughtful Packers analysis. I'm your host, Gil Martin. My co-host is my good friend, Sean Tehan. In addition to this show, I write for the Packers Post and Cheesehead TV, and Sean was a TV sportscaster in Minnesota. We're here to talk Packers because you're all here for one thing, and that's a love for Green Bay football. Sean, OTAs underway, but first, a little message from our sponsor.
OTAs is getting us excited for the regular season. And before we do get started, Gil, a few words about our sponsor, Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packers fans. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. For direct links to specific Packer game tickets, go to packerstalk.com/tickets or browse their website at theticketking.com. OTAs are in full swing. Numbers have been obviously really good. Matt LaFleur telling the media that this is the best attendance he's ever had at OTAs since he took over as head coach in 2019. And for a team that was essentially had the San Francisco 49ers beat in the playoffs last year, you can tell it's a hungry bunch, and it's good to see that they're back in numbers and they're ready to get the new season going, because they definitely felt like something was there last year and they just couldn't put it together, and it just fell apart a little late, and they're getting ahead of it now.
Yeah, and I'm encouraged by that, but also a little concerned, because on the one hand, you want them to be hungry, you want them to be eager to start the season, you want them to take care of that unfinished business and get to the next step, but they also have to realize they're starting over from 0-0, and they're not going to automatically start in the second round of the playoffs against the 49ers trying to protect a 7-point lead as we head into the fourth quarter. So they've got to get to the playoffs first and take it one step at a time. But I do love the attitude of, we have some unfinished business. We had it in the palm of our hands, and we want to take that next step. So I'm pretty confident that Matt LaFleur will keep this team focused and that this young bunch will not get ahead of itself when we get to the start of the 2024 NFL season.
And it's nice that your leader, your quarterback, Jordan Love, who is obviously in a situation contract-wise where he's up for a big payday, and if he doesn't get an extension by next year, he's set to be a free agent in March next year. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's good to see, though, despite that contract situation, that unresolved contract situation, that he is present at OTAs and he's there because he knows it's more important that the team. Obviously, football, the NFL is a business, but the team right now is more important than anything else.
And it's great to see. And look, I don't want to be taking cheap shots at his predecessor, but his predecessor often did not show up at OTAs or voluntary mini camps and all of that, going back 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So to have Jordan Love in attendance, that's leading by example. That's setting the tone for the team. That's trying to, form a certain cohesiveness and bond with everybody, and, making the team the priority. As far as Love's contract situation is concerned, I'll go this far, assuming that his performance doesn't fall off the wagon. If there is an inability to reach a contract agreement in 12 months, they're going to franchise him. I mean, they will keep him in Green Bay for one more year by franchising him if that's the last resort.
And I got to think that will be the very last resort. I really think a deal is going to get done before training camp, but you got to think that Jordan Love and his agency, David Mulugheta, and the Packers, they're looking essentially at what the rival Detroit Lions just did with their quarterback, Jared Goff, where his contract was a 4-year extension. It's going to be worth more than $200 million. It's $170 million guaranteed. Now Goff's been to a Super Bowl with the Rams. He almost got the Lions to a Super Bowl last season. He's earned that contract. He's not 30 yet. He's turning 30 this year. But Jordan Love is 25, and you got to think that the guy is just entering his prime, and there's a lot of upside there. So you got to wonder, Gil, 4 years, $200 million. are the Packers. You got to think that the Packers are offering a little less than that, and his agent David Mulugeta wants a little more than that. It's very interesting to know what's. I'd love to be just a fly on the wall right now to know what's going on in those negotiations.
And there's ways to work around that, whether you want to go a little bit longer in the length of the contract, and then, or you want to shorten the length, or put more guaranteed money or more money up front. There's a lot of ways to manipulate the contract so that it's beneficial both to the team and the player. Obviously, the agent always wants that average, yearly salary or compensation to be up there, because that's where they make their headlines, and that's how they attract new clients. And obviously, Jordan Love wants to be compensated for what he's done. Look, Love has, I think, he has the upside potential to be better than Jared Goff has been, but he hasn't done it as long as Jared Goff has done it yet. You get the feeling, I could see possibly like a 3 or 4 year extension being a possibility if Love wants to bet on himself and say, okay, I'll take a 3 or 4 year deal, and when that's over, the sky is the limit because I know I'm going to perform. Or maybe he wants the security of, a 7 or 8 year deal, and maybe the team wants that security. There's a lot of flexibility here as to how this can work out, and the key is to get it done.
And Patrick Mahomes got a 10-year deal with the Kansas City Chiefs a few years ago. So those long-term deals, it's not usually a smart decision in football, but when you got a franchise quarterback and you are absolutely certain about that quarterback, 10-year deal's a no-brainer. I mean, Patrick Mahomes isn't even the highest-paid quarterback right now anymore, right. And he deserves to be the highest-paid quarterback in football. The guy's won 3 Super Bowls and a couple MVPs. Jordan Love's not Patrick Mahomes, so it's just amazing how much the quarterback market, it just continues to rise, the price tag every year, just for a starting quarterback. It's the most important position in football, possibly in sports too. And Jordan Love wants to be paid like it. I don't blame him at all, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I would be very surprised if a deal is not done before week 1. I think a deal gets done by training camp. It's not really a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I think overall, I'm optimistic about the Packers and Jordan Love agreeing to some sort of contract extension in the next couple months.
I am too. I think it will get done. And look, the other thing that you're thinking, if you're Jordan Love, I already spent 3 years waiting behind Aaron Rodgers. I already did a team-friendly 2-year bridge deal instead of, letting them exercise the 5th-year option where I took a little less money up front. It's time for me to start getting paid. And I can't blame him for taking that approach if that's indeed what he and his agent are going to do. But I really think that the team and the player will work it out. And if you're the Packers, like you said, the number just keeps going up. If you want to try to lock him down for 5 or more years, knowing that the price is only going to go up, there's a middle ground somewhere. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they'll figure something out. Guys who are much smarter than you and I, Gil, they're going to figure that out, and they're going to get the right deal done. But again, it's just something to keep an eye on for the next couple months as we get closer to training camp. But Jordan Love, his talents won't matter if we don't know who the offensive line is in front of him. And so far in OTAs, that first 5 starting offensive line, it looks like right now it's been Rasheed Walker at left tackle, Elton Jenkins at left guard, Josh Myers at center, Sean Ryan at right guard, and newcomer Andre Dillard at right tackle. You're probably wondering, where's Zach Tom? Well, Zach Tom has a torn pectoral, so he is not going to be back until training camp. Sounds like he's making good progress with the injury, but that's the starting 5 right now. Gil, what stands out about this, and where do you see the starting 5 possibly being when it comes to week 1 when they open their season in Sao Paulo, Brazil?
There's a lot of moving parts on this offensive line, in part because of the fact that this team likes versatile offensive linemen. I think I can pencil in Elton Jenkins at left guard as an almost certainty. I can probably say, unless he's severely outplayed in training camp, Josh Myers is the starting center. But then it gets a little murky as to, how things are going to end up. Where does Jordan Morgan, your first-round pick, where does he end up? Is he a starter? Is he a backup? Is he a left tackle, right tackle, a guard. All of those are possibilities that we just don't know the answer to just yet. Is Sean Ryan ready to be a full-time starter, or does he need more work on his pass protection in order to actually earn that spot? How do the other rookies who were drafted by this team, where do they fit in on the depth chart? There's a lot of questions. Rasheed Walker could be your starting left tackle, could move to right tackle. If Morgan wins the left tackle job, then maybe you move Tom inside. There's just a lot of moving parts here. So this is a process that's going to take a little more time to play out. And this is step one here at OTAs.
And it's just interesting hearing from Packers OTAs, too, for people who have boots on the ground, where Elton Jenkins was getting some run at center. Jordan Morgan was playing left tackle and right tackle. And obviously, a lot of draft pundits are saying where he may be a guard in the NFL. So that's not out of the realm of possibility either. Royce Newman, who I don't think should make this team coming out of training camp, was getting some run at right guard, but that's more so a familiarity point. I think that's a guy who could definitely get beaten out by a younger guy for a job this summer. And as of right now, though, I would say if we're doing a starting five right now, and you're assuming Zach Tom obviously will be healthy week one, I'm going with familiarity. I would go from left to right: Walker, Elton Jenkins, Myers, Ryan, and Zach Tom at right tackle. Zach Tom was so good. I thought he was their best offensive lineman last year at right tackle. Don't mess with something that works, in my opinion. And Rasheed Walker, the way with how strong he finished the season from the midway point after that, when he got benched against that game against the Rams, then he won his starting job back and never let it go from there. And there was no question that he was their best option at left tackle last year. I just see that being the starting five to open up the season. But again, a lot could change between now and then.
Yeah, a lot can, and a lot probably will. And then, of course, you always have to take into consideration any injuries that may take place. We've already seen, as you mentioned, Zach Tom with the pectoral muscle. So a lot of possibilities here. But I think overall, you've got a solid unit with potentially a lot of good depth if some of these rookies are ready to fill those positions.
If I'm Matt LaFleur, if I'm Adam's offensive coordinator, Adam Stenovich, and if I'm offensive line coach Luke Butkus, I'm getting crazy in training camp and all these practices to see who are your best starting five offensive linemen. You got to figure that out because there's a lot of talent here. You just got to get the best five on the field. Now, defensively, it's interesting. The ones are running in OTAs, and it looked like this on the defensive line. You had Kenny Clark, TJ Slayton, Rashawn Gary, and Preston Smith. The linebackers are Quay Walker and Isaiah McDuffie. The defensive backs then at corner, Jair Alexander and Eric Stokes. Keyshawn Nixon was your nickel corner. Then the safeties were a newcomer, Xavier McKinney, and second-year safety, Anthony Johnson Jr. Gil, kind of an interesting starting 11. Again, it's OTAs, a lot could change, but what kind of stands out with you when it comes to that starting 11 that looks like the starting 11 as of right now, as of today, Thursday, May 23rd?
Yeah, again, still a lot of time between now and opening day. I think, I think we will see some real changes in the secondary more than anything, but I think along the line, we're going to see a lot more continuity. And then the linebacking situation is very much up in the air. So, especially because we have the new system, and how are players like Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith going to do with their hand on the ground to start play? Who moves to defensive tackle? Who moves to defensive end? How do you fill both the Will, the Sam, and the Mike linebacker positions? Mm-hmm. There are just a lot of questions on this defense, but I am much, much happier with the depth. Coming into the draft and before free agency, everyone was so concerned about safety. Safety was the biggest concern. Mm-hmm. I think it's kind of shifted to corner right now, where injuries and just a little bit of uncertainty has crept into the corner situation. And I think they can be fine, but I think there's a lot of questions there. And that's one area that I'm really kind of focusing on now during OTAs.
And I want to mention, too, where Edgerrin Cooper, the rookie second-round pick out of Texas A&M, he was rotating in with the number one defense as well with Isaiah McDuffie. So, but Gil, going off that starting 11, who do you think is going to start in week one who's not starting right now on that defense? Or do you see that 11 being the first 11 when we open the season in Brazil.
I think Edrin Cooper is a real possibility. I think Javon Bullard probably starts, but whether he starts as one of the safeties or as the slot guy, that to me is a little bit of a question. And then who starts opposite Jair Alexander? That's the other one that I think is sort of up in the air. I think the Packers want it to be Eric Stokes, but can he stay healthy and can he get back to his form from his rookie season where he was so good, and yet since then he's been so inconsistent?
And to me, I agree. I think Edrin Cooper, that's the most likely guy who's going to be a starter. I think amongst the rookie class in general. Javon Bullard's gonna be interesting, where they're gonna toy with him and Evan Williams and everything. I see them being more rotational pieces. I really think you signed Keyshawn Nixon to a 3-year contract extension. I think he's gonna be your starting nickel corner. But I agree with you. The opposite outside corner, opposite of Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes. I don't think that job is his necessarily. It's Carrington Valentine also played very well last year. He held his own and he did not look overwhelmed for being a 7th-round rookie. Carrington Valentine could very well have that other starting outside corner job in that defense. And then you got to think Devontae Wyatt at D tackle next to Kenny Clark, where TJ Slayton, you typically want to put more of a run defender at D tackle when you're actually starting, when it's on first down. But then when you get to second, third down, when you get to the passing down, Slayton usually is off the field, and that's when Wyatt's coming in, Carl Brooks. And so it's just a matter of, hey, what kind of package do the Packers open up with every game? Because I feel like that combo at D tackle, whether it's Clark and Slayton or Clark and Wyatt, that could rotate a lot of games depending on who they play every week.
Yeah, and it may depend on the game plan. And I get the feeling, defensive line is always a rotation. So you have 4 starters. You probably want 6 or 7 guys rotating in total. So it may not even be a question as much of who starts as how many plays certain guys get in certain circumstances or against certain opponents.
Now, obviously, we were talking about injuries with Zach Tom having a torn pec, but I feel like torn pec, Skill, are the new hamstring injuries because Tucker Kraft, he also has a torn pec. Suppose he got married last weekend. He wasn't pictured in a sling, and then he showed up at OTAs in a sling. I think that guy had a hell of a wedding. I think he had quite the party last weekend celebrating the marriage to his wife. Congratulations to Tucker Kraft. But then also, remember, head coach Matt LaFleur, he's also recovering from a torn pec. What the heck's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to question the new strength and conditioning coach this early, and because LaFleur said he got it, bench pressing, right? So, bench press 1, LaFleur nothing here in the early going. I don't like it. Look, at this point, I'm willing to say this is probably a coincidence. I'm not losing any sleep over it. And if ever you wanted, an injury to occur, May is as good a time as any, right? I mean, you don't want rookies missing OTAs, preferably, just because you want them to get more comfortable and install the offense and or the defense and adjust to life in the NFL. But we don't want this to become the next hamstring situation, as you said. That would not be a good precedent. And torn pecs tend to be a little more serious. They tend to take a little longer to recover from. Once the season starts, you can miss significant time.
And good news, though, is that they're both expected to be back by the start of training camp, which is very
shortly thereafter.
Which is very positive. Like you said, very good that they had these injuries now and not later. But maybe the new strength coach, take it easy on the up downs, take it easy on the bench press, maybe. So a lot of messing around and tweaking and everything to make sure that the players are okay. But Josh Jacobs, the new running back that they got from the Vegas Raiders, he's dealing with a hamstring issue as well. And so, of course, the hamstrings haven't completely left us. But, hey, how about a nice surprise, though? Kingsley Enagbare, who said in his locker after the season that he tore his ACL in that playoff win at Dallas. Turns out it was just a scare, and he didn't tear it because he's been a full go at OTAs, and he's totally cleared medically. He's okay, and that is significant for the Packers. And you got to think that the Packers found out or knew about that before draft weekend because they didn't draft an edge rusher. And obviously they felt like they had good depth there and didn't need to.
And I agree now because you have 4 solid, edge rushers on your roster. You got Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary. You've got last year's number 1 pick in Lucas Van Ness. and now you have Kingsley and Igbare. I like that 4. That's a good rotation.
Yep.
And, it makes the depth question not go away entirely, but it makes me a lot more comfortable with the depth situation at the position.
You wonder if Bretton Cox Jr., him being in the lab the full season last year, where the Packers like that guy too, and they kept him on the 53-man roster all season long for a reason. They felt like he obviously was going to get scooped up elsewhere. So you may have a 5th guy there in case someone does go down. So you're crossing your fingers. You're hoping for the best for that group. But really cool to see Kingsley Enagbare out there and just playing without any restrictions and no braces or anything. Really, really nice surprise. But speaking of the hamstring issues from last year, obviously Eric Stokes was dealing with hamstring issues last year. It landed him on the season-ending IR. But also wide receiver Christian Watson, who has been hampered by those hamstring injuries quite a bit his first 2 years. Went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison to get a closer look at the hamstring issue. And then they found that one leg was stronger than the other, and his leg strength is asymmetrical. One leg was like 20% stronger. That's the estimation. Said roughly right now he's at 12%. He's hoping to be at 6% by the start of the season. But hey, good to know that Watson figured out what's going on, and now he could just kind of get to more of an even strength, and hopefully these hamstring issues can go away sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and that's important. Look, I mean, there is no doubt in my mind that, and we've seen it over the last 2 seasons, when Christian Watson is in the game, even if he's not getting the football, the threat of his speed and what he's capable of doing opens up things for other players, even if he's not getting the ball. You have him in the lineup, and other teams have to account for him. And obviously, if this unevenness with his hamstring muscles can be resolved, if that is indeed the cause of these difficulties, that is huge for the Packers, because the offense is at its peak. It is that much better when Christian Watson is in the lineup and healthy.
I agree. The Green Bay Packers are a better football team when Christian Watson is healthy and playing significantly. And the thing is, last year he showed up for the playoffs. He was activated for the Dallas and San Francisco games, but he really wasn't a factor. You could tell he was playing through stuff. You could tell the coaches were kind of cautious with him, because that's the way soft tissue injuries are. A hamstring, a quad, anything like that, where you come back too soon and you screw it up, and you got to start all over again with the rehab process. And it's just such a long process. We saw that with Aaron Jones last year too. And you just hope that these issues are resolved, because I mean, the guy, when he's on the field, man, he scores in bunches. He had a couple touchdowns against the Chiefs, a couple touchdowns against the Lions. Really, I mean, the Chiefs, the Super Bowl champions, the Lions, who probably should have played for a Super Bowl last year until they blew it in San Francisco in the NFC Championship game. Christian Watson is a game changer, and you need that guy in the field. I know the Packers, they have a very good wide receiver by committee, but I feel like he's the number one guy when he's healthy.
Yeah, and they want him to be the number one guy. And the thing about Christian Watson, he's sort of like a goal scorer in hockey or a home run hitter in baseball. They're going to come in bunches. You talked about his touchdowns. I mean, last year, Kansas City and Detroit, the year before the Dallas game where he had 3 in one game.
And he had 2 the next week against Tennessee too.
Right. So he'll go 2 or 3 games where he will just be lights out with the productivity. And then maybe there'll be a couple of games where he's the decoy. But even if he's the decoy, he's creating time and space for his teammates, not just the other receivers, but the tight ends, the running backs, both out of the backfield. And when they're running with the football, the fact that you have to account for the speed of Christian Watson on every play changes the way defenses play the Packers offense. And
this receiver group is good enough where they can succeed without Christian Watson. But Christian Watson, like we said, he takes that group to a whole nother level when he's on the field. They just have so much talent in that room, but Christian Watson really does make them better. Also worth noting before we wrap up, the Packers announced that they'll have some joint practices this summer in training camp. They're going to have a joint practice with the Broncos at Denver and in Green Bay with the Baltimore Ravens. The defending MVP of the National Football League, Lamar Jackson, will be in Green Bay in Titletown. So couple of weeks to look forward to there for sure. And then also the Packers officially signed second-round rookie Edgerrin Cooper on Thursday. First-round pick Jordan Morgan, fellow second-round pick Javon Bullard. They are the lone draft picks yet to be signed by the Packers.
And, just one little note about these joint practices. I think they're being very smart. How long are each of them lasting? 1 day. Yep. It seems like every time you go to 2 days, there's trouble. So I think 1 day is probably, discretion being the better part of valor. This is smart by Matt LaFleur, Brian Gutekunst, and both coaching staffs of all three teams, really.
It was 2 practices and a game, so 3 days. And essentially, in my family, we had a 3-day rule. My mom and grandma, 3rd day in a row seeing each other, man, they were butting heads and they had to get in an argument. It always happened on the 3rd day. So good job by the coaching staffs of Denver, Baltimore, and the Packers being like, hey, 2 days is good. We're not going to stretch it to 3. 2 days are great. But anyways, Gil, before we do wrap up, what articles do you have coming up online for Packers Post? She said TV. A lot going on with OTAs. It's a fun time. Football's in the air. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah, for the Packers Post, I talked a little bit about Jordan Love's leadership, and we touched on that earlier in the show. So definitely broke that down and how the Packers are looking to him for leadership and how he's leading by example. And then I did a little piece on how the coaches are raving a little bit about Javon Bullard so far in OTAs. Very happy with the way he's looked both in rookie camp and at OTA so far. And that is encouraging because we know how important safety is, upgrading that safety room over where it was a year ago.
Xavier McKinney was that big splash signing in the offseason by the Packers. He said this is the best secondary he's ever played with. And I know the Giants, he didn't really have much talent there, but says a lot about how they feel in that defensive room, in that secondary room specifically. Gil, you ready for some trivia?
I am always ready for some trivia.
All right, cool. Well, we had talked about Kingsley Enagbare. He's shockingly not recovering from a torn ACL from last year's playoff run, and he's a full go at OTAs. Hopefully, he'll be good to go for training camp. Enagbare played his college football in Columbia, South Carolina for the University of South Carolina Gamecocks. He was a collegiate teammate of 2 current Packers. Name the 2 players.
Ooh, boy.
And I'll give you a hint. One of them did not end his collegiate career at South Carolina.
Okay, that makes it a little tougher, obviously. Boy. Okay. No, none of the draft picks from this year.
I'm not confirming or denying.
Yeah, I know. Thanks.
You bet. I'm not going to go easy on you.
What was that?
I'm not going to go easy on you.
No, I see that. I definitely see that. All right. All right. We have Kingsley Enagbare.
It's a deep roster. I'll give you that. So I'll give you a little extra time.
I know one of them. I know one of them because he played for both USCs, and that's Marshawn Lloyd.
That is correct. Marshawn Lloyd is one of them.
Oh, Keyshawn Nixon.
And Keyshawn Nixon is the other. The Packers corner return specialist. He was a senior in 2018 for the Gamecocks and Enagbare's first year at South Carolina. And then you mentioned Marshawn Lloyd. He played for both USCs. He was teammates with Enagbare during the 2020 and 2021 seasons. He played for the Gamecocks from 2020 through 2022 before transferring to Southern Cal for his final collegiate season before being drafted in the 3rd round by the Green Bay Packers. Another guy that the Packers seem to be very excited about. He's not going to get the A.J. Dillon treatment anytime soon. Can't wait to see him play. Like the offensive line battle, like the safety battle, the running back battle is definitely going to be great in OTAs and training camp leading up to week 1. I can't wait, Gil. We're less than 4 months to go, and I wanted to be here now.
Yeah, you and me both. My favorite season of the year is football season. I mean, forget fall, summer, spring. It's football season, and hopefully it'll be here before we know it. But hey, it's a journey. It's a process. We're in the early stages of preparing, and it's great just to see the players in practice on the field getting ready for the start of the 2024 NFL season.
Gil, you got married to your wife in September, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I got married to my wife in September as well. September is great. It's football. It's fall. It's great minds think alike because that's the best time of the year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, another thing to celebrate, right? After
Absolutely.
football season.
Yeah. Hey, honey, if you're listening, I love you. So
same here, right? You know, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So he didn't say what order he was celebrating these things in. So
hey, she may love the Packers more than I love the Packers. So
okay.
it's yeah. So we're a pretty big football. I mean, we spent our second wedding anniversary at Lambeau Field for Jordan Love's home opener as the new starting quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. So yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, the Packers bring us together. It brought us together initially, and it brings us stronger together every fall season.
Fantastic. That is absolutely awesome. All right. Well, that is it for today for us. We'll be right back here next week. Follow us on Twitter at Packers, at or to ask us questions. Or you can email us at gbpackerssean@gmail.com. Make sure you're subscribed to Packers Talk on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And a big thanks to PackersTalk.com for powering our show. Thank you for listening. Until next time, go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.